Why does a mind that seeks nothing, that desires no validation and chases no one, become the very thing the world cannot stop chasing? What is the unseen gravity of a person who has mastered their inner world? You may have been told that power lies in finding the right words, the perfect line, the psychological trigger to make others see you, desire you, or respect you. This is a profound illusion. By the end of our time together, you will understand how to dismantle this illusion. You will not learn lines to make someone fantasize about you. You will learn something infinitely more potent, how to build the character from which all powerful, truthful, and memorable human connection originates. We will find the answer to that question of gravity, and it will change the way you walk through the world. Let us be clear before we begin this work. What follows is a philosophical exploration of internal mastery, perception, and human interaction, drawn from the ancient school of Stoicism. It is not psychological therapy, medical advice, or a substitute for professional counsel. It is a mirror offered for your own self-reflection. The application of these ideas to your own unique life is a fortress that only you can build. We live in an age of ghosts. We are surrounded by people performing versions of themselves, hollowed out by a desperate need for approval. They say things not because they are true, but because they have calculated the effect they will have. They offer compliments like transactional currency, hoping to buy a moment of attention, affection, or advantage. The source of this behavior is a fundamental misunderstanding of power. There exists a popular narrative, often cloaked in the language of Stoicism, that suggests a grounded, masculine man can use frames and triggers to command attention without chasing. It proposes specific lines engineered to be unexpected or seductive. It tells you to say, "There's something dark in your eyes," to imply depth and plant a seed in her imagination. It suggests you say, "You feel dangerous," to appeal to some feminine shadow. It even advises you to state, "You feel safe around me," as a devastatingly effective tool to reframe you as the leader. Let us examine this architecture. The foundation of this entire philosophy is external. Its goal is to create an effect in another person's mind, to be replayed on a loop, to be imagined, to be desired. The ancient Stoics, from Epictetus, the slave, to Marcus Aurelius, the emperor, would look at this goal and call it by its true name: slavery. Epictetus was clear. You are a slave, you whose body is free, if you are a slave to pleasure, or to fear, or to any person who can give you what you want or take it away. If your goal is to make another person fantasize about you, you have just handed them the keys to your tranquility. You have made their opinion your master. Your frame is, in fact, a cage of your own making. This is the first and most painful illusion we must burn away. True Stoicism is not a tool for seduction. It is a tool for liberation. It is not a method for controlling other people's perceptions. It is the practice of mastering your own. The popular advice fails because it confuses the symptom with the cause. It sees a person who is calm, grounded, and unimpressed by superficial games, and it correctly identifies this person as compelling, as high value. But it then makes a fatal error. It assumes this presence is a strategy. It tries to reverse engineer the outward signs of inner peace, package them as a series of lines or frames, and sell them as a shortcut. It is like seeing a deep-rooted ancient oak tree, and instead of cultivating the soil and planting a seed, you simply nail some branches and leaves to a dead post and wonder why it gives no shade, bears no fruit, and splinters in the first storm. The work is not on the lines. The work is on the mind, from which the words originate. Consider the weak compliments this philosophy rightly criticizes. You're so beautiful, you're amazing, you're perfect. Why are these weak? The pop psychology answer is that they are generic and pedestalize her. This is superficially true. The Stoic answer is that they are weak because they are dishonest. Not necessarily false, but dishonest in their intent. They are a form of flattery, which Seneca described as the most base form of communication because it is speech divorced from truth, aimed only at personal gain. The speaker is lying about their motive. They are not giving an observation. They are taking, seeking approval, validation, or a reciprocal favor. The listener, deep down, senses this transaction. They sense the need in the speaker, and this neediness repels because it reveals a mind not in command of itself. A person who pedestalizes another is admitting their own inner poverty. A true Stoic pedestalizes nothing and no one, save for virtue itself, that is, the rational, just, and courageous alignment of their own mind. So, how does a person rooted in Stoic practice communicate? How do they navigate the world of compliments, attraction, and social power? They begin with the foundational principle, the dichotomy of control. There are things within our control and things outside of it. Outside our control are all externals: our reputation, our wealth, our health, and most pointedly, what other people think of us. Whether she fantasizes about you, whether she finds you magnetic, whether she loses attraction, these are all phenomena that occur inside another person's mind. They are, by definition, utterly and completely outside your control. To build your life strategy around controlling them is, to the Stoics, the definition of madness. It is to guarantee a life of anxiety, disappointment, and frantic performance. Within our control, and only within our control, are our judgments, our intentions, our assent to impressions, and the choices we make based on them. This faculty of choice is what the Stoics called prohairesis. This is the only thing that is truly you. Therefore, the Stoics' goal in any interaction, whether with a lover, an employee, or an enemy, is not to get a specific outcome. The goal is to act with virtue, to speak with justice, truthfully, fairly, temperance, with appropriate measure, not uncontrolled passion, courage, even if it means saying something difficult or not seeking approval, and wisdom, from a place of clarity and reason. When you speak from this place, your words have weight. They land not because they are triggers, but because they are perceived as true. They are a direct, unvarnished reflection of a mind that is in order. Let us now revisit those three compliments through this new lens, not as lines to say, but as encounters to understand. The first line was, "There's something dark in your eyes. I like it." This is presented as a psychological trigger that reads her. But what is it really? It is a projection. It is the speaker imposing a narrative onto the other person. It's a gamble. If the person does see themselves as dark or deep, it might land. If they don't, it's simply confusing, even creepy. It is an act of imagination, not observation. What is the Stoic alternative? It is not to project, but to observe. The Stoic trains their mind through meditation and self-reflection to be a polished mirror, to see what is actually there, not what they wish was there or fear is there. The most profound compliment you can pay another human being is not a line, but the gift of your full, undivided, non-judgmental attention. When you truly listen to someone, not to find an opening to speak, not to win the interaction, but to simply understand their experience and the character they are revealing, they will feel seen on a level no line could ever reach. And if, from that place of pure observation, you choose to speak, your words will be specific and earned. Instead of a vague, theatrical, "There's something dark in your eyes," it might be, "I noticed when that person was rude to the waiter, you didn't join in. You stayed calm and were respectful." That kind of self-possession is rare, and I admire it. Do you see the difference? The first is a strategy. The second is a reflection. The first is about the speaker's desire to seem deep. The second is an acknowledgement of the other person's demonstrated virtue. One is a gamble, the other is a fact. This kind of observation lands because it isn't flattery, it is witness. You are holding up a mirror and showing them the best part of themselves, their prohairesis, their own virtuous choices. I remember a young man, let's call him Alex, who consumed this kind of seduction advice relentlessly. He memorized the lines. He practiced the low, calm voice. He learned to stay silent, to let her sit with the mystery. He became a performer. His interactions were a series of tests. Was his frame holding? Did the trigger work? He lived in a state of high alert, anxious self-monitoring. He did, on occasion, succeed. He got the attention he craved, but it was hollow. He had not connected with a person. He had merely gotten a reaction from an audience. The relationships were brittle, transactional, and exhausting. And then, one day, a woman he was seeing faced a real crisis, a family member's sudden illness. She wasn't teasing or playing. She was terrified. She was in chaos. Alex, the performer, had no line for this. His frame was useless. His entire persona was built for seduction, not for support. Confronted with real, unromantic, painful human emotion, his facade shattered. He was awkward, silent, and useless because the real Alex behind the stoic mask was just as terrified as she was. Terrified of her pain, terrified of his own inadequacy. He hadn't built a citadel, he had built a stage set. And in the first real storm, it was washed away. He had not cultivated the virtue of courage or justice, compassion as a form of justice. He had only practiced the art of the first impression. This is the downfall of technique. It fails precisely when it is needed most. Let us look at the second line. You feel dangerous. I like women who know their power. This is meant to appeal to her feminine shadow, to show you are not afraid of her energy. Again, let us dissect the underlying assumption. The interaction is framed as a contest of power, a dance of chaos and containment. The speaker is positioning himself as the masculine man who can hold space for her wild, intuitive, sensual force. This is deeply romanticized, and again, it is a performance. What is the Stoic reality? A person in command of their prohairesis is not unafraid of another's energy as a flex. They are indifferent to it in the technical sense. Another person's emotional state, whether it is dangerous, wild, chaotic, or simply sad, is an external. It is an event in the world, like a thunderstorm or a barking dog. The Stoic does not contain her energy. The Stoic contains his own. When confronted with a person who is teasing, playing, or challenging, the mind untrained in Stoicism reacts. It gets defensive, aroused, or competitive. It judges the event as a test or a threat or an opportunity. The mind trained in Stoicism simply observes. It sees the challenge and thinks, here is an impression. This person is speaking. Their words are just vibrations in the air. Their energy is their own internal state, not mine. My task is not to win this game. My task is to respond with reason and virtue. This person is not unafraid of her. They are simply undisturbed. This tranquility, this ataraxia, is the realist container. The other person, who is perhaps used to throwing others off balance with their danger or chaos, suddenly encounters a mind that will not be moved, a mind that does not get hooked, a mind that does not react, but chooses. This is infinitely more powerful than saying, I like that you're dangerous. To say it is to react to it. To simply be with it, calm and centered, is to demonstrate true internal mastery. This creates genuine safety, which brings us to the third line. You feel safe around me, don't you? This is presented as a devastatingly effective statement that reframes you as the leader and builds trust. This is the most insidious of the three because it attempts to tell another person what their internal reality is. It is a form of subtle coercion, a frame that is, in fact, an arm lock. It's asking for surrender by assuming it. A Stoic would find this repulsive. You do not create safety by stating it. You do not build trust by demanding it. Safety is not a line. Safety is the atmosphere you create by being a person of unimpeachable character. How do you be safe? You are just. You are fair, honest, and do not use manipulation. Your yes is yes, your no is no. You are temperate. You are in control of your own passions. You are not ruled by lust, anger, or greed. They know you will not explode in rage or make a decision based on a fleeting desire. You are courageous. You are willing to have the difficult, truthful conversation. You will not hide from conflict or pain. You are wise. You see the world clearly and make rational, principled decisions. A person who embodies these virtues is a leader. They are an emotional anchor. They don't need to say you feel safe around me because the other person already does. They feel it in their bones. They feel it because they are in the presence of someone whose inner citadel is so well built that it provides shelter for others. Safety is a byproduct of your virtue. To say the line is a cheap attempt to get the credit without having done the work. I think of a woman I knew, we can call her Maria. For years, she was a chronic people pleaser. She was the one who gave the weak compliments. She would praise everyone, hoping to be liked, to smooth over any potential conflict. She was, in her own words, a slave to anyone who could give her a compliment. She was exhausted, anxious, and had no idea who she was. Her awakening, as she called it, came from reading Epictetus. She encountered the idea of proheresis, that her choice was her own and that others' opinions were indifference. This was terrifying. Her entire identity was built on managing those opinions. Her first act of voluntary discomfort was not climbing a mountain. It was at a dinner party. A friend made a casual, cruel joke about a mutual acquaintance. The old Maria would have laughed along nervously. But this time, she just stayed silent. Her friend, noticing, said, "What? You don't think that's funny?" Maria's heart was pounding. This was the moment. She could choose virtue, justice by not partaking in cruelty, or validation, laughing to keep the peace. She took a breath and said calmly and without anger, "No, I don't. I think she's a good person, and I don't feel right laughing at her." The table went silent. Her friend looked offended. The night was, for a moment, awkward. In the past, this would have destroyed Maria. She would have apologized, backtracked, and spent the next week replaying her failure. But this time, driving home, she felt something new. It wasn't power, it was peace. She had held her ground. She had been true. She had controlled the only thing she could, her response. She hadn't tried to frame her friend or win the interaction. She had simply been a person of character. This was the first brick in her own citadel. This is the hard, unsexy, and real work of Stoicism. It's not about being magnetic. It's about being integral. This brings us to the core of the matter. The social world is starving for gravity. We are surrounded by performances, people pleasers who are slaves to our validation, and frame controllers who are slaves to their own need to dominate. Both are lightweight. Both are leaves in the wind, reacting to the slightest breeze of approval or disapproval. The person who has done the inner work, the person who has trained their mind, who has identified their values, who has built their fortress of prohoresis, possesses a different quality. They are not a leaf. They are a stone. They have weight. They are present. When they listen, they listen. When they speak, their words have substance because they are aligned with a consistent internal logos or reason. This is the gravity I spoke of at the beginning. This is what you have sensed in others, that calm, grounded masculine or feminine force. It is not a frame. It is character. It is not a strategy. It is the accidental byproduct of a life spent in pursuit of virtue. This is why true internal mastery becomes so compelling. In a world of flickering ghosts, a person of substance is a revelation. They become a fixed point. People are not fantasizing about their lines. They are drawn to the implication of those lines, that here is a person who is free. Here is a person who is safe. Here is a person who is real. And they are drawn to this because deep down, it is what they too wish to be. So, forget the lines. Forget the psychological game. If you want to upgrade your words, you must first upgrade your mind. The compliment that truly lands is not a trigger. It is a true observation of virtue delivered by a person who is not seeking a reward for it. This is the entire practice, not to be the prize, as that pop philosophy suggests, but to be the person who no longer needs a prize, because they have found the source of all value within their own faculty of choice. This work is the real game. It's not about seduction, it's about liberation. And this internal work on our judgments and intentions is only the first step. The next chapter in this journey is to master not just our words, but the very perceptions that create them. We must train our mind to see the world as it is, not as our fears or desires paint it. This is the discipline of assent, the forge where raw impressions are hammered into clear, rational, and virtuous action, and it is the foundation for everything that follows.